I actually went to Harvard in Massachusetts. I ended up going to medical school in Dallas, Texas, the University of Texas Southwestern. You put a list together of the different schools you want to go to for your residency training. And the one that I got accepted to is in Buffalo, New York. And that's where I ended up going for my residency in obstetrics and gynecology. And that's when I started on the journey.
I'm glad to be here today with a first-time guest, Dr. Ellen Devere. Did I say your last name correctly?
Yes, you did.
And I want to talk to you and just hear your thoughts on, first, your experience in medicine in general, because you had a career in medicine, and then your experience after becoming involved in the healthcare team here at Homestead Heritage. And for starters, maybe give us a little bit of your background, where you went to school, where you went to medical school, and what your experience was in the medical field.
Well, I'll start off just my background as far as where I'm from, because we're here in Texas. You may detect there isn't a Texas accent. Yeah. I'm actually from New York.
It's not a strong New York accent.
It is not. That's because I've lived other places other than New York. But I was born in New York City, grew up in upstate New York. At age 16, we moved to Texas. So I actually finished high school in Austin, Texas. And after I finished high school, I went to college. I wasn't very happy to move to Texas from New York, so I was determined after college that I would leave, and that's how I ended up going out of state to college. I actually went to Harvard in Massachusetts. Eventually, when I finished college, I came back to Austin, and around that time is when I came to the Lord. That was in 1984. I was part of a church that I was spending quite a bit of time there and being mentored there. And one of the things they help the young people with is, what direction or what God, would have us do with our lives. So I had been thinking about medicine, but after college being such a struggle, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back to school. So working with them, initially I thought maybe I'd go to study at a Bible school in Hawaii. That sounded very nice until they talked with me and said, you should pray. And anyway, I ended up feeling that I would go to medical school and the Lord, could use that in some capacity. Actually, I was thinking on the medical mission field. So that's what kind of prompted me and helped me to feel that this was the direction of the Lord. So I ended up going to medical school actually in Dallas, Texas, the University of Texas Southwestern. And I spent 4 years there.
What was your field of medicine?
So after medical school, you choose your residency in a specific area. Okay. There's internal medicine, family medicine, surgery, obstetrics, gynecology. Those are some of the basic ones. And initially, I thought I was going to do pediatrics. Okay. And then during a rotation in medical school in pediatrics, I realized that I would not be able to stick needles in children and stick needles in their spines. I mean, it was just heartbreaking for me. I love working with kids. I love kids. And so I decided I wasn't going to do that, but I didn't know what I was going to do. So one of the other rotations was obstetrics and gynecology. And I was part of just a team that goes around various parts of the gynecology is all female. Obstetrics is delivering babies. So I was involved in a delivery room, and it was my first time to see a baby born, and I was just enthralled. It was amazing to me, and I felt something. I felt the Lord. I felt God.
This was your calling.
Well, something changed inside of me, and I saw this baby come out. It was a miracle. It was a baby, a miracle. And after that, I really, felt that that's what I was going to do. In medical school, what you do after your third year, you start looking at programs, various places. There's a whole process that goes through, and you put a list together of the different schools you want to go to for your residency training. And that's what it's called, residency training in a specific field. And the one that I got accepted to is in Buffalo, New York. And that's where I ended up going for my residency in obstetrics and gynecology. And it's a 4-year residency. So that was in 1991 to 95. And that's when I started on the journey as far as obstetrics and gynecology. It entails the first year, really our very first year is what we consider normal pregnancies. So you learn what's normal, a healthy mom, 9 months pregnancy, you learn that. You do all types of surgery that relate to females. So that's part of the 4 years. After that first year, you start learning about what term I'll use as pathology of pregnancy. All types of illnesses that are affiliated with someone being pregnant, including, there's a term called preeclampsia, that's high blood pressure in pregnancy, diabetes in pregnancy, other types of illnesses like lupus and any chronic illnesses that people have. So you spend quite a bit of your training learning about that, because that's sort of the direction that medical doctors have always gone. Right. Is more pathology, more things that are abnormal. Sure. There were quite a few different things that happened over those 4 years that
pretty fascinating.
Had pluses and minuses to it. So, again, I was involved in a church there, and the area I was involved in was the children's ministry. Okay. So I did get to work with kids. Yes. In that capacity. So I always felt like, oh, okay, I help them being born, and then I can work with, the other most important part of their life. So I was involved in the church, and then finishing my residency. And as residency came to a close, you make a decision as far as what path you're going to take. Are you going to go into private practice? You're going to continue in a university setting with teaching and training residents. You can go into a group practice. Well, one of the things I had mentioned earlier is I had wanted to do medical missions work. And so I learned that that could be any place. It doesn't have to be overseas. Okay. It could be in your own area, your own community. And so I ended up working in a community healthcare center when I finished my residency. And it was serving the inner city, basically, there in Buffalo. And that's a whole nother set of stories. But I really enjoyed it. That was my heart, was to serve in some capacity those with needs, And there were great needs, illnesses and sicknesses, being in a setting like that. Yeah. So that's what I spent my first few years doing when I finished my residency. But there was still a pull as far as the work I was doing in the church. So after there was a situation at this community healthcare center, a lot of politics going on in the inner city, and eventually that closed. And I ended up helping as like a contract OBGYN at various community healthcare centers within Buffalo. Okay. And then after—
That's a lot of experience.
It does allow you to see a lot in people's lives. And so I dealt with, as far as with women, drug abuse and all kinds of abuse, that kind of thing, because of my area. Some very, very sad things like rape and that kind of thing that happens to women in that area that I was in. It happens everywhere, but I saw quite a bit because of where I was working. So after the contract work, I was offered to work as in partnership with another doctor, OBGYN doctor. But I didn't feel to do that, because that's a commitment, and the relationship wasn't a believer. So I just felt that wasn't what I was to do. So I ended up going to private practice.
Okay.
And it was a solo practice.
Okay.
Yes. Many women, I should make a reference that many women, get married, they have children, and it's difficult because in obstetrics, it's pretty much 24/7 because babies are born at any hour, at any time. And you are with the mom throughout that whole period of time. So the community healthcare center I worked at, there were other OBGYN doctors, so we can split up our call time. In the contract work I did, the same thing. But in solo practice, not so. You're it. You're everything from the beginning to the end. So that was a challenge. But many women, when they're in this field, and it's their career, they'll work in a group practice where there's usually other females, and they understand each other. They work together, and they help cover things. But I didn't do that. I was doing this solo practice. And then
And is this in New York still?
Buffalo, yes. So I was in Buffalo from 1991 until I came here in 2022. So 30 years.
Wow.
Yes, sir. I was, yeah.
So a slight change of pace.
What happened in Buffalo is I stopped practicing in 2007. I went through the whole process. You go through a process of getting board certified and that kind of thing. But I still had this pull as far as helping the kids in the church, and our church ended up opening a daycare and a school. So I stopped practicing actually to help in the church full time. So I spent 15 years in that capacity. And that was another learning experience as far as ministry and helping the pastors and helping the leaders there in an administrative capacity. So that was a kind of a life-altering and life-changing, but there was still a pull there. When I first came to God, I was part of Maranatha, but I also had met individuals that were part of Homestead at that time. So we stayed in contact even when I was up in Dallas. I actually visited here while I was a medical student, and that was around 89, 90. 90, I think, is when the church came into Waco.
Yeah.
And then while I was up in Buffalo, it was more sporadic. I came to a couple weddings through a series of different things. I came and visited in 2018 to go to the fair.
Please.
So I attended the seminars in 2018. One in particular was with Evan Birdsong, and it was about nonviolence. And at the time, in 2018, there was a lot of upheaval again in our country. It's been upheaval in our country through periods of time. I grew up in the 60s, and so, and I came here in the 70s. It was a lot of tension in our country. But there was, again, an upheaval, and there was a lot of protesting going on. But the seminar I heard was on nonviolence and the approach that Jesus took. So that started me thinking, there's a different way.
Yes.
Anyway, that seminar, and then a series of other things happened. COVID hit. And why I'm bringing up COVID is it changed a lot as far as medical practice and what doctors can and cannot do, as far as the strictness of licensing and that kind of thing. I am licensed in New York, and a door opened up here in Texas for doctors to come from out of state under a Texas licensed doctor to help with the COVID response. So that was kind of a door that swung open, and I felt that was the Lord, and I came in January of 2022. And I came to help in any way that I could. I got a call from the doctor that's here, Mark Dickey, and he said we could use some help, and I was here to help. So that's when I started helping him at our clinic, our wellness center. His background is family medicine. Mine is mainly women. So, we're able to complement each other in that way. And then I always knew that home births were part of the community, and how I might be able to help in that way, I wasn't sure. But if I could, I always loved, I told you my first experience with the birth, so that stayed with me And I even tell people that was always my favorite part of practicing is when babies are born.
So I was born at home. Most of my siblings were born at home. My 6 children were all born at home. And we've had a wonderful experience.
Yes, sir.
My mother or my sister delivered all of our children. And yet there's got to be a pretty stark contrast from Buffalo, New York to home birthing here at Homestead Heritage. What is that like? What was that like?
It's exactly what you said. It was kind of like my move from New York to Texas as a teenager, the contrast. But this one was now, much later in life, had some experience, especially training, all this training. I couldn't even imagine what it would, how could this even be? It's very, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but in the hospital it is very sterile. Everything's pretty much laid out for you. And it's, it has its place, and I know that. I was there, and I see the importance of that place.
Sure.
But there's something different about pregnancy is not meant to be all of this pathology, all of this kind of bad things that happen.
Sure.
Usually it doesn't happen, actually. So my first experience when I was asked to attend a birth, I didn't know what it would be like for me, but I can tell you that watching mom labor, and she's in her home, she's with her friends, and she's with her husband. It was a labor kind of in a pool. The birth didn't take place in the pool, but there were all the things that were needed for comfort, for caring, for love. It was just it was like a womb. There's a womb carrying a baby, but there's a womb to care for when a baby's about to be born. So that was, and I was asked after the birth, and birth is the same. It's probably pretty much anywhere you go, it's a similar process.
Yes.
But there were all these people that were surrounding this mom, and I had the privilege to be part of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
So your part now helping at our community clinic, you're helping a lot of women, you're interacting with a lot of children, a lot of needs.
Yes.
You work with Amanda, who kind of helps volunteer with the midwifery, and Mark Dickey with family practice. What is your general impression of our approach to healthcare? What would you say to someone who's never heard of this and says, what? You guys...
We're doing?
Yeah.
So, there's these terms that get thrown around, holistic, and there's certain terms that are out trying to get back to kind of a natural means of caring. And I would say this is it. This is what it is. This is the whole person is being cared for. It's not like I call cookie cutter. It's not everyone fits this certain mold. Yeah. And come in. I was reading an article how different it is in the hospital setting versus a home birth setting. And there is, you can see everything kind of looks the same. So every mom that comes in is basically going to go into the same room that the next mom. So here there's you can see the families and how the families, this is an area that you can see the furniture, everything is that family, not sterile and...
It's deeply personalized.
Yes, that's a very good word, yes.
Yeah.
It is.
And a lot more diversity of expression.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would you say to someone who says home birth isn't safe and people need to be more qualified? How would you respond to that?
So with home birth in general, I'll start there. That it's always been a lot of negativity toward it within the medical field. And unfortunately, my background as an obstetrician, I heard it, saw it, and it was you know, it was negative as far as if people had to transfer to the hospital. That's what we saw. But you would think that's what we're supposed to see, is if there's an issue, that's where we come in. But it was more like it could have been avoided. And most of what I've seen could not be avoided. And it's something we see even in the hospital setting. I mentioned some of those different, some of those problems that exist in pregnancy. So it's sometimes it's just because something's different that there is just a lack of understanding, a lack of willingness to, for people to be able to choose or alternative ways of doing things. And there are in medicine alternative ways of doing things. And to me, home birth seemed like a very natural. In New York State, they have what's called certified nurse midwives. I think they're all around the country. And they would work under doctors. But then there were those midwives that also did home births without being certified or without being under a doctor. What I find here, to be more specific, is with Amanda, she's able to work not just, with within our team of assistants and doulas. There's an actual team, but she's also able to work with Mark Dickey, myself. She consults us, talks with us. So you have an even better scope of care, than maybe you would find for midwives practicing outside of this setting.
I know it's been a huge blessing to have your participation and not only your incredible expertise, which is huge, but your care. And to me, I was raised being told that the root of the word cure was the same as the word care, and that you can't really find responsible healing until you find care. And I think that that's what a lot of people are looking for. They're looking for a deeply personable, relational, caring environment. And we hope that's what they are increasingly finding. We're thankful to have people like yourself who can express that care.
Thank you.